Good evening. I'd like to call our City Council meeting to order. We'll go ahead and start with our roll call, please.
Councilmember Dennehy.
Here.
Councilmember Gonzalez. Absent. Councilmember Jaquez.
Here.
Councilmember Meisner.
Here.
Councilmember Reed. Absent. Councilmember B. Smith.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick.
He'll be in here shortly.
And Mayor Smith.
Here. I would like to invite Brandon Booth to come up and give our invocation. Brandon, if you're on Zoom, that would be great. It's been a long time since we've had an invocation for one of our meetings, and I think we definitely, all of Canyon City could use it, and ask that you pray for the suppression of the coronavirus in our community, and for those that are sick, that they can get well.
There we go. Can you hear me now?
Thank you.
All right. Thanks for letting me pray, everyone. Let's pray. Almighty God, from whom come all holy desires, all good counsels, and all just works, thank you for these men and women who have chosen to serve our city. We thank you that through your very gifts of the members of this council, you provide for the ongoing care of this city. Grant us all now your presence, especially in these troubled times of pandemic. Be with those who suffer, those who have those who are suffering. Enlighten and guide these civil servants this evening, that in all matters of deliberation, they may always consider the best interests of this city. Let your spirit rule and direct their hearts, that in the spirit of love they may present and discuss matters and be kindly disposed towards one another. God of all blessings, bless our city with honest industry, truthful education, and an honorable way of life. Save us from violence, discord, and confusion, from pride and arrogance, and from every evil course of action. Grant that we may become a united city. Support us in defending our liberties, and give to those whom we have entrusted with the authority of government the spirit of wisdom, that there may be justice and peace. When times are prosperous, may our hearts be thankful, and in troubled times such as these, do not let our trust in you fail. Through our Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Brandon. And Brandon is from the Signpost in Ministry. We'll now stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have a citizen's request to speak to council, and that's Michael Fitzpatrick. If you wouldn't mind coming up to the microphone.
Okay, good evening. My name is Michael Fitzpatrick, and I came here to City Council this evening to speak in regards to Black Hills. And I know this is a current concern. I've got a letter from Power Technical Services in Douglas, Wyoming. And I'm also in contact with Obermeyer Hydro in Fort Collins. My wife is the manager of our business. Very briefly, I've been in power generation services and quality assurance for over 18 years. The gentleman I work with Power Technical Services They provide consulting in the power generation field, and they've been doing so for over 40 years. The gentleman that I am in contact with and that I've worked for, Mark Panasuk, and several others who work for PacifiCorp, which is a Berkshire Hathaway company, but we also work around the world. And I came here tonight to kind of meet, greet, and introduce myself and see if we may be able to help Fremont County and Canyon City in developing a sustainable and rewarding and beneficial power generation plan in any negotiations with Black Hills.
Thank you, Michael. And I have your contact information here. Do you have a business card?
I do.
And then I think what the council is considering is putting together an advisory committee. And that's something that perhaps we want to make sure that you're aware of when we're ready to start taking letters of interest for the advisory committee as we go forth in our research and considerations.
Excellent. Thank you so much for allowing me to speak this evening.
Thank you for being here tonight. We appreciate that. Okay, do we have any council member announcements?
Yes, we have a meeting coming up Wednesday,
Okay.
and that is a general government meeting. And let's see if I can get to the going to talk about, receive a report from the FEDC, going to talk about the Humane Society contract and Canyon City Chamber of Commerce.
Excellent, thank you.
Consider my 14 years.
Go ahead.
Announcement by the Chamber of Commerce is that unfortunately, there's not going to be, at this particular point and stage of the game, there will be no type of Christmas parade, whether that be a reverse type of Christmas parade or parade of lights, whether that would be physically going through downtown or having some kind of reverse. But I think we were looking at doing a reverse option, which I thought was going to be kind of interesting, but apparently that's off the table now. So COVID's consumed another one of our activities.
It has consumed our parade of lights for this year, but the Canyon City staff is definitely wants to still be able to celebrate Christmas in some way, in some form. We're moving forward with a Christmas tree lighting program. It's going to be virtual. It's going to probably something that the city has never seen the likes of before. We've already had a number of community groups and citizens step up to participate. A lot of it will it's all going to be on Facebook Live. And we'll have musical numbers, we'll have readings, we'll have, we actually have someone who's one of our local active military. He's not going to be home for the holidays, but he is going to give us a special message. We also have some other really exciting things coming down the pipe. We will definitely get a press release out when we have the exact details, but it'll be the same day, December 5th, 6 to 7 p.m. Just need to tune in to Canyon City, Colorado government on their Facebook page. And it's gonna be pretty special. You're not gonna have to go out in the cold or even wait in a long line in a car for a reverse parade. You can watch it right from home, right on time. And we're really excited to offer that. I can say for sure that Santa Claus will be coming on December 5th in a fire truck. And our hopes is that we'll be able to get some nominations of families that really need some extra Christmas cheer this year. And after Santa lights the tree, he is going to have a police escort in his fire truck to go deliver some special baskets to those families that very night. And it's just a beautiful way to really express the spirit of Christmas this year. No matter with or without COVID, we can definitely do that. Yes.
Tim was trying to help me out, and I was trying to help Tim out. So do you have anything to add about the Christmas parade?
I'm good. I'm disappointed that it is not going to be this year. We're really looking forward to it, but you know what, let's just stay safe, and you know what, it's something that didn't happen, but let's just make it better next year.
And really, in light of the increase of COVID cases we've been having this past week, I mean, we really do need to be home for the holidays and really be safe in the city. Any other announcements from City Council? Then I'll go ahead and ask for a motion to approve the agenda and the consent agenda, please.
How about if we review it first?
After it's been reviewed by Administrator Ryan Stevens.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of council. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Item 6A is to approve the minutes for the regular city council meeting on October 2nd and the general government meeting on October 4th. 6B awards a bid for a 20-inch water main for Central Avenue from 15th to Phelps to Pate Construction of Pueblo West in an amount not to exceed $367,567.20. 6C awards 2A sales tax compliance audit to Logan and Associates. 6D awards the annual auditing services to BDO USA LLP. 6E authorizes the city administrator to sign a revised intergovernmental agreement with the Fremont RE1 school district for Red Park. 6F approves the surplus and disposal of recycle containers according to our current purchasing policy. 6G is the monthly budget summary, and 6H is receive and file a list of bills and the P-card list of bills.
It looks like we have a question already from Councilmember Meisner.
I didn't like the already, but item D on the auditing services, that looks like they're suggesting a 5-year agreement or something. They gave us 5-year pricing.
When we put that out for bid, we asked for a price for 3 years and an option for an additional 3 years.
So I'm a little, how do you justify the difference between the low bid and the bid that you're suggesting that we accept? I mean, that's a substantial difference, is it not?
There's also a substantial difference in the number of hours that are anticipated to complete the audit. Their finance did do some reference checks, and we feel that even though BDO has the highest overall bid, the benefit to the city is, I think it's just going to be a better fit for the city. And also, if you take the total hours, divide it by the total bid as an aggregate, they have the least aggregate hourly rate.
Well, where's the total?
Let me get to.
I mean, I went the other way and it doesn't work out like that. So maybe the reverse math does. But my question, at least to the administrator, was there needs to be some kind of justification in there between we're spending a minimum of $10,000 and potentially $20,000, as I'm seeing it, at least between the projected number of hours and the hourly rate. There needs to be some justification between besides a good fit.
Yeah, so it's more than just the good fit. Part of that due diligence in calling the references that are similar in size, budget to and financial activities to the city. We feel that the number of hours that are being projected by some of the low bidders were not adequate enough to actually do a comprehensive audit that we feel is appropriate for the citizens of Canyon City.
How many hours did you request in your RFP?
The auditing firms are the ones that come up with the number of hours that they feel should take to do an audit of our size. BDO estimates 350 hours. Perspective Business Solutions, 167 hours. And Hinkle and Company, 193 hours.
I just find it odd or confusing that we're basing our decision on the number of hours, and the number of hours wasn't even a factor in utilizing, or at least publishing whatever we did in terms of a bid or an RFP.
And again, I think, you know, the way that RFP was structured was to give them an idea of the city operations and to give them the opportunity to say how, you know, what they thought was going to be a comprehensive audit solution.
Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick, did you have a question on the same subject? Or?
Well, kind of it's a little bit hard to wrap my head around it. I mean, the difference that apparently that we're talking about is between 20,000 for the low bid and 40,000 for the high bid, roughly. And I guess, Ryan, how many audits have you been through personally?
The 19 audits, and then you know, I took over the interim role right in the middle of the 18 audit.
And do you recall what we paid for the 19 audit?
Actually, Tammy, I believe, has those numbers handy.
Give me one moment.
Let's see if I have it right here.
Yeah. And another concern that we have had is lack of communication with the auditors that we had previously. And I did express some of those concerns in an email back today. Hold on one second, I'm looking for that.
So the 2019 audit was 25,000. The 2018 audit was 15,600. But you know, going back through 2017, it was about 28,000. 2016, 23,200.
And one thing that we did request that everybody quote us on was to help with the preparation of the actual CAFR. When they're going through the audit, they have to put all of our financial records into their system and essentially prepare the CAFR. We still will prepare it internally to compare to them. And so, you know, it just gives us that assurance that we are doing it properly, and the formatting is changing again, and some of the reporting requirements are changing.
Councilmember Meisner.
Well, I mean, I respect your guys' opinion, but historically we're in that $25,000, $28,000 range. And then to go to a $40,000 expense based upon feel and the number of hours, it suggests that the audits that we've been doing over the last 10 years have not been adequate. I mean, is that what you're telling us, that you see something there that you're not comfortable with?
No, on BDO, their quote based on and same as anybody else's is not to an exceed amount. So if they have hours that are over 350 hours, we will not be billed for those additional hours. If the audit takes less hours, we will be charged the lesser amount. And with the lowest bid, there is a concern that they have the staffing that we need they have the staffing that is needed to perform an audit of our size. The firm that had currently been doing our audit, some of their more experienced auditors are not assigned to our audit.
Are there any other comments from council members concerning this item? Well, Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick.
So I would suggest that, I think there's some consternation on council about the request to approve this as part of the consent agenda. So I think that perhaps what we should do is pull this out of the consent agenda and then decide it as a separate issue during our deliberations later.
So with that said, are there any other questions on any other items?
We didn't even start.
This is just the beginning. All right, go for it, Councilman Meisner.
Okay, item E. Can you just briefly tell us what the differences are between those two contracts? Because I didn't see a comparative contract in there. And I assume the one we're looking at is the new contract?
It is the new contract. The contract is to allow the school district a little bit more discretion in who can be within Rudd Park during school hours and school activities. So the way the previous contract was worded, it was closed to the public. It is now basically open to the public as long as the public is not disturbing students or school activities during those hours.
And that was initiated by the schools. And I remember in our original conversations, they didn't want to kick out the public, and especially, a group of yoga moms that are doing, a yoga session at the park and things like that. Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick.
I've got two questions. One is on the request to dispose of them according to our surplus property rules, the 35 recycle containers. Wouldn't it be better to hang on to those for at least a little bit of time to make sure that there's not a future recycling opportunity that could use those containers?
And I'll tag a little bit onto that to maybe not rush into it, because I don't know about any of you, but I have received some communication from citizens really concerned that the recycling is stopped, particularly for glass, because you can have a service from Howard Disposal for recycling privately, but they still don't do glass. And so I know one citizen in particular is really doing some homework to see what some options might be, and we might need to maybe wait a little bit. Are there any other comments from council on this particular agenda item?
Yeah.
Let's go to Brandon Smith.
Okay. Brian, I wanted to go back to E for a second. Doesn't this kind of contradict what we were trying to accomplish with Rudd Park?
No, the school will still have the authority to remove people who are causing problems within Rudd Park. This allows for the family to go for a picnic or use the playground during school hours.
What, didn't we discuss that there was options that the school had there to where you could fill out paperwork, and is that what we're changing?
We've got Tammy Wagner on the line, and I know she was working with the school district on that. Is this part of the reason why we're changing it, Tammy, because of the paperwork?
No, not exactly. They just want to make sure that they were worried about families or individuals that wanted to come spend time in the park. They didn't want to exclude them, but be able to work with them in the community. They are still asking if parents, for instance, do want to come have any lunch with their kids. They do sign at the office like they normally would on any of the school grounds. but they're trying to work with the public that live in that immediate area that do want to have access to the park during those hours. Of course, if there's a school function that the public can't be in the park, then obviously we'll, make sure they're not there while they're having that function.
Does this open us up to any legal liability in the fact of we're picking and choosing who can and can't be in the park?
It's something I'll probably go ahead. I'm sorry, Corey.
I think, frankly, we're not picking and choosing. The school is more than anything, and so I'm comfortable that it's not opening the city up to liability under these circumstances.
I know between myself, Ashley, and Ryan, we did a lot of meetings and a lot of research and a lot of different departments and everything were going into this. So I just want to make sure that this works for everybody.
Yeah, this was initiated by the schools.
Okay.
The request. Councilmember Meisner.
I would suggest that, or I'm not going to suggest it. I'm going to request that item F be removed from the consent agenda and be placed on the regular agenda as item whatever's next that would follow.
So what I have right now is I have item D as agenda 8A. We can have F go to 8B.
I don't care. Just get it off of the consent agenda.
And then we'll
and we've already pulled.
The Hoover property will be 8C. Okay, so we'll move it to 9A, 9B. Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick.
Thank you. On the purchase card documentation that we've got, I noticed that there's a line item there for radiation monitoring services. I believe that is, and possibly equipment from Landauer. I assume that's for TLD badges for our radiation density gauge that the city maintains. Do we have a radiation safety officer that is on the license for that gauge?
We do. Adam?
Yes, we do.
And who would that be?
Ted Dell.
Ted Dell.
Mm-hmm. And, okay, great, thank you.
Councilmember Jaquez.
Yeah, I understand the purpose for what we have, but I just have a question. We have two deals here, one for Home Depot and the other one for Lowe's for COVID-19 patio heaters. I know it's coming from a community grant. My question is, what's going to be the process to see where these get distributed within the community?
They've actually already been distributed. So we had, a call for submissions for businesses that were interested in participating in this grant program. And we had folks that applied. I believe we had 65 heaters that we gave away to businesses so they could expand their businesses outdoors during the colder months.
And unless I missed it in the newspaper, because I read the newspaper every day, I never saw any kind of an article with regards to just what you said. And if that's the money was done for that purpose, which is a good purpose, we should have had an article put in the paper to let everybody know that we got this money from grants and then we gave it to these businesses so they can continue operating through the cold weather. Let's let people know, some of this is some of the stuff we're doing with this money that we get. And I don't ever recall seeing it in the newspaper.
Yeah, I would have to go back, Councilman Jaquez. I believe there was an article, but I'd have to go back and double check.
Thank you.
Well, you also have in our administrator's report some additional grant, around $200,000 of grant monies going to businesses. And it's always good to send out a press release of good news, that's for sure. Councilmember Meisner.
Well, I see on page 3 of the purchase card, 3/4 the way down the page, we're doing something with gateway signs again. It's only $1,500 this time, but I thought we were done with that headache.
I know we had one sign where the graphic was wrong. Adam, was that to fix that graphic, or is this something else?
Well, if the graphic's wrong, why are we fixing it?
I don't know if I see Adam on the panelist.
No. It looks like he stepped off. Councilman Meisner, let me look into it and I will get back to you on that one.
How about while we're on traffic signs, how about the little marks on the sign out there by 15th and the highway that we were going to look at? Does that ring a bell?
The traffic sign or the?
Yes, it does. No, yeah, the gateway sign.
It's cleaned up. It's cleaned up.
It's been cleaned.
Did it?
Yeah.
Somebody cleaned it
Yeah,
up.
I believe that. Yeah, that got cleaned up right away.
Just got one more stupid question.
Okay, one more question.
I got to ask this. What's the bus ticket for? And hopefully it's not for me.
The bus ticket. I would have to look into that one. I don't know offhand.
That's a lot on it. Not much money. What we're doing. All right.
I was gonna say it's for the homeless, but I don't know if that's.
Go there.
Madam Mayor, I'd make a motion.
Yes, please.
I move that we approve the agenda and consent agenda with the provisions of removing items D and F from the consent agenda and moving those into the appropriate place on the agenda.
So there's been a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? I'll please call for a vote.
Councilmember Dennehy,
Aye.
Councilmember Jaquez,
Aye.
Councilmember Meisner,
Aye.
Councilmember B. Smith,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Hammer.
Aye.
Thank you, Council. We'll now move on to a public hearing, and this is for the Cooper property at 703 4 Mile Lane. This is an introduction and first reading by title only of Ordinance 25 Series of 2020 entitled An Ordinance of the City of Canyon City Rezoning Certain Real Property Within the City of Canyon City, Colorado. Lot 1, 4 Mile Ranch, number S1, SFR 6A, SFR 6B. And let's turn it over to Patrick Mulready.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and members of the City Council. This evening, we are here to consider the request by the owner of the property to rezone 703 4 Mile Lane from PDD Planned Development District for 4 Mile Ranch to R2 Medium Density Residential. This is a public hearing and it has been noticed as such. The subject property is situated on the west side of 4 Mile Lane in the eastern part of Canyon City. It is a 76-acre parcel heavily impacted by both 100-year floodplain and floodway associated with 4 Mile Creek. These flood zones seriously restrict where on the property future development can occur. Currently, the property is vacant and undeveloped, and any access to the developable portions of the site would have to come from 4 Mile Lane. In terms of existing zoning, the subject property is currently within the 4 Mile Ranch Planned Development District, or PDD. Within the 4 Mile Ranch PDD, the property contains 2 single-family residential land use areas. Together, these areas would allow for 110 single-family homes on 31.2 acres. The approved zoning also preserves the floodplain and floodway areas within an open space designation, within which no more than 6 single-family residences could be constructed, and any construction within this area would have to be situated outside areas impacted by floodplain or floodway designations. In terms of the context of the existing zoning, the subject property is the only portion of the 4 Mile Ranch PDD situated west of 4 Mile Lane. If someone wanted to separate a parcel from 4 Mile Ranch, 4 Mile Lane would be a logical separation point. The portion of 4 Mile Ranch east of 4 Mile Lane also contains single-family residential in the same density as that permitted on the subject property. This area is highlighted on the map in orange. Now, it should be noted that the property to the south is the only other parcel which the subject property touches that is within the current city limits. It is zoned RL, Rural Living Residential, which is how it has been built. The properties to the west are also low-density residential situated in unincorporated Fremont County. Finally, the property to the north is agricultural in character and also located in unincorporated Fremont County. The applicant seeks to remove the property from the obligations within the 4 Mile Ranch PDD. The reasons for this include wanting to have the flexibility to develop duplex units and wanting to disassociate this property with the broader 4 Mile Ranch Plan Development District. To accomplish this, the applicant seeks to change the existing zoning to R2 medium density residential. And you have in your packets this evening Ordinance 25, Series of 2020, which would accomplish this. Well, the applicant intends to build a house for his family in the short term. In the longer term, the applicant seeks the ability to locate a small community of duplex units on the property, outside of the areas that are impacted by floodplain and floodway. There are approximately 36.93 acres on the subject property outside of the floodplain and floodway, which could be developed for residential use. Note that any such development of the property would require the approval of a subdivision, which would, at the time of subdivision application, address access for individual lots, overall grading for the project, drainage, and extension of utilities into the site. Now, this does leave a small developable portion to the west of 4 Mile Creek. The applicant has indicated that because of the existing grades on this property, he has no desire to attempt to develop that property at this time. Now, with that, as defined in section 17.40, Canyon City Municipal Code specifies 3 criteria against which zoning requests must be evaluated. Staff's evaluation of this request found that both criteria number 1, which is that the land to be rezoned, was zoned in error and as presently zoned is inconsistent with the policies and goals of the comprehensive plan, and criteria 2, the area for which the rezoning is requested has changed or is changing to such a degree that it is in public interest to encourage redevelopment, apply in this circumstance. The 4 Mile Ranch PDD was established nearly 20 years ago. In that time, only 2 internal land use areas have been developed. The applicant of this rezoning wants to have greater flexibility in the type of residential that can be built on his property besides that which the 4 Mile Ranch PDD would allow, and wants to disconnect this property from the restrictions that are imposed upon it by the 4 Mile Ranch PDD. Now, it should be noted that as a matter of public policy, there is a shortage of quality attainable housing in the region that the applicant's proposal could potentially help to resolve. And with that, following a public hearing on this request conducted the evening of October 28th, 2020, on a vote of 5-1, Planning Commission recommended Council approve the rezoning request for 703 4 Mile Lane to remove it from the 4 Mile Ranch PDD and zone the subject property to R2 medium density residential. Approval of the rezoning request would require Council to approve Ordinance 25, Series of 2020 on first reading and set the second reading for December 2nd, 2020. That would conclude the staff presentation. As always, I'm happy to answer any questions that Council may have. Also present to speak on behalf of this project is the property owner, Mr. Nelson Hoover.
Mr. Hoover, would you wish to address Council before we start our questions?
Good evening. I don't have a lot to say regarding the request. I think Patrick did an excellent job in presenting what's happening with it. I will say if there's an issue with the type of zoning that's being requested, an R2, say versus an R1, just a normal residential rating, probably a lot to do with the housing concerns in Canyon City, leaving that open for opportunity because of the cost of infrastructure. Almost 20 years ago, this PDD that it's part of was developed, but obviously there's really not much has happened with it. And some of it is just the infrastructure cost to get sewer lines, water lines back 4 Mile Lane. So in light of that, unless the east side of 4 Mile Lane would develop quickly, which it's had a 20-year opportunity and the best economy we've seen in how many years, and it's not developed. This would, the R2, and just a simple reason I'm asking for that, I don't have any plans for anything high density because of the way ordinances, building codes are. It would have to be on 1 acre property. Each unit would have to have 1 acre associated with that for the septic that would go along with that. So high density would virtually be out of the question, even with R2, unless city sewer would be run back there. So, and that's cost prohibitive at this point. So there's no intention to mass produce a lot of units in there, but an R2 would allow some additional housing for the city in a limited amount of space. For me personally, it's not a game changer. If the city would decide that it is a better use under R1, I don't have a strong preference with that. It's just simply, we do intend to use this as our personal home at some point, a piece of this property. But I believe that an R2 would allow at least the flexibility to have more units than an R1 because we're not seeing the development of the PDD that was designed a lot of years ago. I'll be happy. I really don't have much else to say other than that, but I'd be happy to answer any questions if I can.
Thank you for being here, Mr. Hoover, and for being available for questions. That it's always helpful. We'll start with Council Member Meisner. I don't know if you have questions for Mr. Hoover or not, but you're first on the list.
Thank you for being here. I don't care whether you answer this or Patrick, but I got the impression from your chat that we really don't have a number here, but isn't the number of 200 lots mentioned, or dwelling units mentioned in our presentation?
Correct. And when I prepared the staff report, I obviously have to let Planning Commission and Council know what the worst case scenario could be if the property were zoned R2. The applicant has mentioned that beyond a certain number, and he made this presentation to Planning Commission as well, beyond a certain number of dwelling units, the cost for development just doesn't pencil out for him. So I don't think we would ever get to the point of a 200 unit development out there. What the applicant is seeking is a diversification of the type of housing, and R2 is what would establish that.
And then if you, I don't know that you need to go back, but yeah, if you could go back to your justification and the two elements that were met. I thought that you had mentioned in there that this, number one, that the area, the land was rezoned in error. How did that happen?
Well, it was originally annexed as part of the 4 Mile Ranch PDD. Right. I believe what the argument that is being presented here is that given that 4 Mile Ranch has not extended development beyond the two initial filings that were done off of 4 Mile Parkway further to the east of this site, and that no development activity has happened in this area in the intervening 20 years, the argument could be made that this property, in its rush to be annexed into the city and included with 4 Mile Ranch PDD, there might not have been as much scrutiny as to the kind of zoning that was applied to it as might have been at the time.
Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick.
Thank you. And I understand that it does seem to me to be on its face that if after 20 years that no development is anticipated because of zoning, that is an indication that the zoning was not correct to begin with. But I do have a specific question, Patrick. And I understand the area that we're asking for the rezone on, that the rezone is being asked for, contained open space besides floodway or floodplain. Is that correct?
There was additional open space, yes. And I believe was the exact number that I referenced in my staff report. 36.93 acres of the property was set aside as an open space area on the site. And that included areas that were beyond the 100-year floodplain and the floodway.
And, excuse me, did it also include a part of the floodplain and floodway, the 36.93 0.93 acres?
Oh, yes, that encompassed all of the floodplain and floodway plus some additional acreage, and the designation allowed for up to 6 residential dwelling units in that area.
So my question is, do we have, is there a map of that? What my concern is that, let me tell you what my concern is, and then you can discuss that. But what my concern is that if the original development called for open space and the rezoning does not call for open space, in essence, that's a net loss to that development of open space. So I would have a concern there, and I'd like to hear your thoughts on that.
Okay, so what you're seeing, the area highlighted in green, that is the open space designation under the 4 Mile Ranch PDD. There are 2 development parcels associated with this piece, and those are highlighted in the orange color there. Now, you are correct. A rezoning to R2 would be a rezoning that affects the entirety of the parcel. Which means, yes, there is the potential for some areas that are currently designated as open space now to become designated as developable parcels. All I can tell you is we didn't get a request to have an open space designation, an OPR designation, in addition to the R2. The request we got was for an all R2 designation.
I see. That is somewhat of a concern to me, because if you design for open space and it through rezoning or whatever, it goes away, it seems like kind of a loss. But so I just need to think about that a little bit.
Okay.
Thank you.
I also have a question, and that is on page 4 of 7 on the Planning Commission report. And it talks about how the existing unified development area is servicing and paying for infrastructure.
Mm-hmm.
And I would like to get a little bit more insight into their service of debt at 4 Mile Ranch. Is that just service of debt of what's already been developed at 4 Mile Ranch, or is that in addition to what this property can or?
So I believe at the time 4 Mile Ranch was created as a PD, council at the time also authorized the creation of a metropolitan district in 4 Mile Ranch. And I believe they created 4 internal districts, 2 of which right now I believe have debt encumbered upon them to pay off the cost of infrastructure installation. I believe improvements to County Road 123 included the installation of water lines that will go out, and then of course all of the grading associated with the MF4 residential area and the SFR1 area were also incorporated into the existing debt. The applicant's property was part of a metro district that had not had any debt encumbered upon it. And I believe the applicant is in negotiations with that particular metro district to have his property excluded so that they are not financially encumbered by anything that may happen on the east side of 4 Mile Lane.
And so does that mean, Mr. Hoover, if you were to develop and put in duplexes or whatnot, that you would be responsible for putting in that infrastructure in your own neighborhood that's created?
That is my understanding.
And has the Metro District had any input or say in their feelings on having that potential debt sharer taken away?
We've had some communication. We've not had a clear answer from them. Matt, do you have any word to speak into that?
Good evening. I'm Matt Koch with Cornerstone Land Surveying. I did receive an email from Dennis Minchow, who is a representative for 4 Mile. He did indicate today that they are trying to install the board for the Metro District to remove this property. So they did indicate there wasn't an issue removing this property from it.
All right, thank you for that clarification. Councilmember Meisner.
That map, that inset doesn't seem to make sense with, something's different there. I mean, like up in the right-hand corner, right where in the image on the left where it says 4 Mile Lane, it comes up to a peak. But I can see that peak maybe when you pull that inset out where there's a development. Is that brown, which you called orange area, planned 4 mile development or the planned development for this?
It's the planned 4 mile development. And under this plan, there is a slight realignment of 4 Mile Lane as it goes up to intersect 4 Mile Parkway. 4 Mile Parkway is the road that you see sort of at the top of it.
Okay.
4 Mile Lane bends a bit to the east.
So we would go with the one on the left.
Well, the total area is the same. All that would happen under this is that he isn't proposing to modify the current alignment of 4 Mile Lane. If the 4 Mile Ranch PDD wanted to modify that, they could do so in accordance with their plan, but it wouldn't affect what he wants to do on his property. The realignment of the road would be off of his property.
Any other questions from council members? Councilmember Jaquez.
In a sense, and I understand you want to put a home on there for you down the roadway. What is your, I mean, because I've seen that place go way back when I was on council, way back when we had stuff in there, everybody came in, they wanted to do this, they wanted to do that, and made conceptions for everything, for things to get developed. What is your initial intention with regards to, what are you looking at with regards to trying to get that property and what you want there started? I mean, have you talked to folks that have been interested to you and come to you and say, you know, if you can get this in there, you know, I want to become part of your community that you're looking at there. Because I'd hate to see, not just for you, but everything else, I'd hate to see us do all of this, and then 20 years down the roadway, we're back where we are now. You know, there's a lot of good potential out there once you can get the sewer lines, water lines, and everything out there. You know, and you know, we've been keeping the street and the road maintained fairly good, with the city has and everything else. And there is a lot of potential for, I would think, where you're talking about, for moderate to not real high-end homes, which is what this town needs very, very much. And that's just my question. You know, I'm not trying to say, I want you to tell me you're going to build a house there within a year. I'm just saying, what is your vision right now with regards to, if this goes through, to start your development going?
So the first step would be our personal home on the south end of the property. That is the intention. We're in the plans. We have the home plans prepared if we can allow staff to get that through here. But that would be the first step, probably in the next year or so, beginning with the rezoning, whatever that looks like after our hearing tonight. Begin to look at a plan to initially, this is not concrete, probably look at 5 to 10 lots that would come off of 4 Mile Lane. And just, again, I'm open to input from city council as well as what the city needs. If you look at the rest of the street, what the rest of the community looks like, it would look like at least a medium income level housing for that. There's options. I really don't have a concrete plan for that. I would like to see at least some development on there. I think that it would probably look different from what would come in across the street if that would ever happen. I got to say, just honestly, it looks like a pipe dream. It's been 20 years and we've had the best economy that I know of. I've not lived here my whole life, but the last several years has been incredible here and nothing has happened with it. So, you know, but either way, it would probably look a little different than the east side of 4 Mile Lane, probably a little bit more maintained, individual homestead type approach rather than a larger community. But again, we have a lot of seniors in Canyon City. We have a lot of snowbirds, and you know, the duplex idea probably would cater more to the senior side of development of people that, you know, want a little bit of space, but they don't want to be living by themselves on a 5-acre parcel because there's too much maintenance that goes with it. Those are some of the ideas, but really nothing concrete as of yet. I would say a good projection would be probably 5 to 10 lots. And again, we'd have to work with the city on what we can do with that.
Mayor Pro Tem Hammack.
So kind of following up on my previous question, the green area is right now that says natural open space and rural residential lots. Is that correct? So it's both open space and rural residential lots?
Correct.
What's the minimum size on a rural residential lot?
Generally speaking, 10,000 square feet and above.
So less than a quarter acre.
Less than a quarter acre.
Okay. Thank you.
If there are no other questions from council, I would like to entertain a motion. Councilmember Smith.
Madam Mayor and Council, I would like to make a motion to approve ordinance number 25, series of 2020 on first reading.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any discussion? Councilmember Meisner.
It just seems like we're rezoning this whole area and building one home. That seems odd to me.
Well, it's his private property. He can do what he wants.
Well,
with
not
it.
quite.
But there is some ambition to maybe provide some attainable housing, which
Right.
would definitely be ideal. Any more discussion? I'll call for a vote, please.
Councilmember Dennehy?
Aye.
Councilmember Jaquez?
Aye.
Councilmember Meisner?
Aye. Aye.
Councilmember Smith?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick?
Aye.
The motion the resolution has passed, and congratulations upon the first reading. I guess we still have a second one, but
Good
so
luck.
far so good. Yeah. All right, we will move on to item number 9A, and that is about awarding the annual auditing services to BDO USA LLP. So we're going to turn that back to Ryan and Tammy again.
All right. And I guess at this point, I want to know what other questions we can answer for council and, address those concerns.
Councilmember Meisner.
Well, to be honest with you, I don't know what kind of, I had sent an email asking for some justification, but I think I personally need more justification to spend 10 to 20,000 additional tax dollars in a year that's already going to be very difficult. We've already got two potentially, I'm assuming, credible auditing firms that have given us a quote with a limited number of hours. And I realize the other firm is doing almost double the amount of hours, and you're relating that to a positive. I don't know that I necessarily relate that to a positive. I'm just not seeing the same light that everybody else is.
Part of the recommendation comes in from our reference checks that we had done, and then some of the performance issues we have had with our current or former auditors. I do have that email that I can send to City Council if they would like to see what the concerns are that finance has.
Mayor Hamrick.
Was there something else you wanted to say, Tammy?
Yes. So during the 2018 and 2019 audits, the finance staff did express a concern that they did not feel that we had a thorough enough audit performed. And that goes back to saying why we are anticipating having an audit with additional hours. There's just certain things that the staff is used to having reviewed pretty thoroughly, and that had not the same audit procedures had not, or the testing may have been different with the last firm. So there's just some items like that finance had concerns about.
If council continues to have more questions or want more feedback, I would recommend that perhaps we table this item or go ahead and vote yay or nay.
I just, somebody make a motion, or I don't know if you need a motion, but hell, I'm not going to vote in favor, but everybody does what they want to do. I can't justify spending $20,000 to show that our previous audits were wrong.
And it's not that our previous audits were wrong. Staff just felt that they may not have been as thorough as they had been previously.
I think, Councilman Meisner, what we're looking for is some additional rigor. Our previous auditor, that firm was purchased by another company, and since that transaction has taken place, we don't necessarily feel that we've received the same level of service and quality that we've received in the past.
Is any of the company that's been doing it, or the company that bought the company, is that any one of the 3 people that gave us a bid?
It is. Is that the middle vendor? Is that correct, Tammy?
That is correct.
Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick.
Throughout my career, I've performed many audits, and I'm very thankful to say none of them were financial in nature. But I would just note that if staff wanted it, the purpose of a bid is to give the bidders equal footing and equal chance at securing a contract. And that if staff felt that there were areas that needed additional scrutiny during an audit, that should have been a part of the proposal process, so that each potential bidder knew exactly what staff was looking for. If staff desired more hours of audit in a particular area, that should have been, put in the request for proposal. So, given that, I am in the mind with Mr. Meisner here, Councilman Meisner, that right now we really haven't been. Number one, I'm concerned about the process, that all of the firms are bidding on the same basis, and that we're using the advertised decision process to make our decision. And I have no problems with disqualifying an auditor because of lack of technical resources. That's entirely appropriate. But right now, I think this process is a little bit off the rails. And I think that really, in my view, the way to fix it for this year, rather than go through a rebid process, is to so based on what I heard, Prospective Business Solutions, there was concern about the technical expertise or resources that they brought. If I understand that correctly, I would move then that we approve the awarding of the annual audit services to Hinkle & Company at the estimated 193 hours at a blended rate of $158.03 per hour.
Is that the one who got the audit? So in other words, you want to give it to one of the other people that bid on it.
So
either yes or no. You want to give it to one of the other folks that bid on it.
So yes, we have 3 bids, and I think that we can decide among those bids based on the information we've received.
Okay. My question to Tammy is going to be this. Does it create much of a problem with you and the budget and everything else if we go out and put this back out to bid so that you can put specific questions out there for the people that are going to bid on it based on the questions that have been brought up, not only by Mr. Meisner and our Mayor Pro Tem, so that everybody that's going to bid on it understands the philosophy that you are looking at with regards to what you would like to have as a company that's going to do the audit for us. Does that create much of a problem?
It creates, first of all, everybody received the same request for proposal. Each auditing firm has a different approach on how they will conduct an audit. And that is where you come up with the varying hours. Going out to bid again at this point is going to create issues. We should have an interim audit done in fourth quarter, meaning that they will come in and do some preliminary field work. So we're anticipating that that happen December or January. The actual audit itself would need to start in mid-March and be concluded, have us a draft document in mid to late May. We have deadlines that we have to meet, not only to GFOA if we are going to submit for our CAFR for the certificate in financial reporting. That deadline is June 30th. Our state deadline to have our CAFR turned in is July 31st. If we put off or go out to bid again, we will not make those deadlines. And one of the big concerns that I had with our one of the firms that had bid was us not meeting deadlines and there not being any communication from their staff to our staff until we pushed them to get us the documents.
Councilmember Smith.
So Tammy, if I'm understanding correctly, what you're saying is when you put this out for bid, one company came back saying it was going to take 350 hours or less. One company came back and said 167 hours or less, and one said 193 or less. Is that how I'm understanding it?
She hung up on
you. What they thought their number of hours would take to do our audit, and to also help with the preparation of the CAP.
Okay, thank you.
So can I go back to Councilman or Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick? So going through the three that bid, we have Prospective Business Solutions, which was the low bidder on this. When we checked those references, it came back that they didn't necessarily have the technical expertise on staff to perform this audit. The second or middle bidder was Hinkle & Company, and that is our current provider, which is the ones that we had the communication issues with. That leaves us with BDO, which was the high bidder.
Does BDO have to have 350 hours? I mean, that is a huge jump. Almost double the hours. I mean, does it need to be that much more rigorous?
Well, that is their estimate.
What?
We can,
Go ahead, Tammy.
That's their estimate. Yes, that's their estimate, because right now they do not know what all we are going to have, how many transactions we have, and that type of thing. So once they actually start the audit, get our files electronically, get it converted into their system, they'll be able to see about how many hours it will take. And I don't know if it would be appropriate to say, we don't want it over X number of hours, because then you are almost telling the auditing firm that your approach and what you're looking at is not as in depth as we feel that it shouldn't be, as in depth as you think. Or, you know, I don't know what issues we would come up with at that point.
I see what you're saying, Tom, and I actually do appreciate that the Finance Committee wants incredible, they're totally open to having a deep dive in the most innermost possibilities that shows that you're being absolutely transparent. I do feel like we've had a lot of discussion. At some point we need to make a decision.
Well, accounting audits it's not like a new business. It's not like we're creating a new wheel. They've been doing this for years. And there's very distinctive established processes that you use to do an accounting audit. And for that much difference, you know,
well, either we need to table for more.
So, Madam Mayor, we
Yes.
do have a motion, although it
we've got a
has not
motion
been
with no
seconded.
second.
So can you please repeat your motion?
My motion was to award the annual auditing services to Hinkle and Company PC, estimated at 193 hours at a blended rate of $158.03 per hour.
There has been a motion.
Need a second.
Does anybody wish to second it?
I'll second it for a vote.
There's been a motion and a second to approve the bid to Hinkle and Company instead of BDO USA. Is there any discussion?
My light's on.
Councilmember Meisner.
My opposition is that I haven't seen the justification for spending roughly $10,000 more for a financial audit that for the most part is a standard business.
Any more discussion? Then I will call a vote. And again, this is to approve or not approve Hinkle and Company instead of the suggested BDO USA.
Councilmember Dennehy?
Aye.
Councilmember Jaquez?
Are we approving the one that, or the ones that Mr. Hank?
That's what's up for vote right now.
Okay,
The one who's done our.
if he amended it to a different company, I vote no.
No.
Councilmember Meisner?
Aye. Aye.
Councilmember B. Smith?
Nay.
Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick?
Aye.
So the motion does pass 3-2 that the award will be given to Hinkle and Company. And we're going to move on to item number 9B, and that's to approve the surplus and disposal of recycled containers according to current purchasing policy. I think the question at hand is if we should hold on to those a little bit longer to see if there might be some potential options. Well, you're always welcome to make a motion, Councilman Meisner. Is this something that we need to vote? I mean, if we decide to wait, do we need to vote on that, or we could just table it?
We pulled it off the agenda.
Yeah,
we can just table it. I think.
Yeah. If you want to table it, we can table it. These recycle bins are part of the COG program that has ended because it was not financially sustainable But if you would like us to store those a little bit longer to see if somebody wants to step in and fill that void, we can certainly do that. The feedback, especially in regards to the glass recycling, was that was that part of the COG program was less profitable than the rest of it.
Councilmember Meisner.
My concern is that we have recycled containers that if something were to happen in the next year that we needed recycled containers, we would have to go out and buy them. I'm making the assumption that we could store those somewhere at a very minimal cost.
They're up at the 9th Street shop, and we can store them up there.
Okay. So the third thing in terms of my point is we need to start looking at recycle options and seeing what's out there for the community. I realize it's not a real profitable business. If it was, the people that are currently in the recycle business would be doing better than they are. It's just a real challenge to do recycling. But I think we got a duty to the community to try to have a recycle option. And if that, in my personal opinion, means some city involvement in that process, we were paying for it before. We weren't paying for all of it, but we were chunking out some money. I think it was 10 grand or something, wasn't it? Every year to.
It was about 18,000, and it was going to go up to about 22,000 for next year if the program were to continue. But again, it would still be losing money even at those higher per capita rates.
Yep, right. I mean, recycling is a very challenging business, but I think it's still an integral part of the community. And if nothing else, it at least communicates to the community the value of trying to recycle. That stuff's going to go somewhere. It's either going to go in the trash and you're going to pay for it, or in the city trash containers or somewhere. But that's stuff we need to look at some options as far as I'm concerned, and not get rid of our containers.
So if the council decides not to get rid of our containers yet, I would further suggest that we also create another advisory group potentially. I don't know if there may already be some interested parties in the community to help do some of that research for city council. Is there any other discussion? It sounds like the overall feeling is this, there's no harm in holding on a little bit longer. And we would need to table this. Does that require a motion, Cindy, to table it?
I don't know that we need to table this one. We can bring it back in, 2
years.
We'll bring it back in a year or so.
We'll see what kind of solutions can be found. So. All right, City Council for that consideration. We are going to move to our official number 9. And that is the introduction and adoption by title only, resolution number 24, series of 2020, entitled A Resolution of the City Council of the City of Cañon City, Colorado, summarizing expenditures and revenues for each fund and adopting a budget for the City of Cañon City, Colorado for the calendar year beginning on the first day of January 2021 and ending on the last day of December 2021. I invite our administrator to give us a report, please.
Actually, I will ask Tammy to give a report for Resolution 24.
Resolution 24 is the first
Tammy,
step
can you
in
louder?
Adopting our 2021. Yes. Okay. Resolution number 24, series of 2020, adopts the budget for calendar year 2021. This is the first step in getting the budget passed for 2021. Shown in the resolution is the, hold on one second. in the attachment is the funding is the budget per fund shown for revenue and expenses. If there are changes to be made, we will have to come back and make an amend. We will have to do another resolution amending this resolution based on earlier conversations.
Councilmember Meisner.
Do we amend this resolution or the next one? If we have to make changes in funds, wouldn't it be the next one?
So resolutions are only one reading, so we would have to bring back a new resolution to do the amendment.
We did have a pretty extensive report by Tammy Nordyke on the 2021 budget at our previous Wednesday meeting. Are there any other additional questions or comments from the council about the 2021 budget? I will say that it's pretty skim. There's almost no bells or whistles. We're anticipating a kind of a rough year in 2021 and additional budget cuts that will be coming our way. So there's not a lot of wiggle room in this budget. I appreciate our staff for coming back and making the cuts that needed to be done to be fiscally responsible in light of the global pandemic and ensure financial future for our country. Councilmember Meisner, do you have a question or possibly a motion?
I've been doing this for, as I told, or Ashley told me, 6 years today.
We're finishing at 5.
Whatever, something feels like 6. So the budget process creates the structure. Is this correct? And then we come back with the ordinance 21 that's appropriating it. Very briefly.
Yeah.
I mean, what are we doing? We're creating a budget that has no money in it, and then we're coming around with ordinance 21 and putting that money in there. Is that what we're doing?
Yes, sir, that's correct. So 21 or the resolution here before you will approve the budget, and then the ordinance later will actually appropriate the funds. And then we do have some changes that we do need to make, and we will bring those back to you at second reading.
So
for the appropriation budget.
So for right now, we are
we're doing 20.
We're just doing number 24.
Right.
Resolution 24, correct.
That will be passed on the first reading. And Councilmember Meisner.
Madam Mayor and Council, I move that we approve Resolution 24, series of 2020.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Councilman Smith, did you have any discussion?
No, I was just going to make the motion.
Any other discussion? I'll call the vote, please.
Councilmember Dennehy?
Aye.
Councilmember Jaquez?
Aye.
Councilmember Meisner?
Aye.
Councilmember B. Smith?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick?
Aye.
Resolution number 24 has passed. Thank you, City Council.
So we have a budget, but there's just no money in it. Is that correct now? Seriously, I'm not.
At this point, yes.
For a couple of minutes.
Right.
I don't know why we have something in between, but we do. We're sandwiching it.
Yes.
And we can handle it. Right now we have a second reading and adoption by title only of ordinance 20, series of 2020. Do I need to read that whole thing?
No.
Or because I did it on the first reading.
I would recommend you do so on this one.
Let the attorney.
Okay, deep breath.
Do it one breath. That's what comments are.
We should take turns on this one. Ordinance 20, series of 2020, entitled An Ordinance of the City of Canyon City repealing sections 1.01.110 and 1.01.130 and chapters 15.04. 15.06, 15.07, 15.08, 15.12, 15.14, 15.20, 15.24, and 15.40 of the City of Canyon City Municipal Code and amending Title 15 of the Canyon City Municipal Code by the adoption by reference of the 2018 International Building Code of 2018 International Existing Building Code, 2018 International Residential Code, 2018 International Mechanical Code, 2018 International Fuel Gas Code, 2018 International Energy Conservation Code, 2018 International Swimming Pool and Spa Code, 2018 International Fire Code, 2018 International Property Maintenance Code, 2018 International Plumbing Code, and 2020 National Electrical Code.
This is a second reading. We did have a couple of last minute questions that came in from the fire district. We did answer those questions to their satisfaction. I believe Ron Cook is on the line if there are any additional questions. And then I will turn it over to Kathy. I believe she's there in the room with you to answer any additional questions.
And Ryan, this is Corey Hoffman. There is one typo that we need to address, and that is there is a reference at the top of page 21 of the ordinance that references in its current language 31-1-1001 subsection 1 subsection D. That should actually say CRS section 32-1-1001 sub 1 sub D. So just changing the CRS title reference from title 31 to title 32. And again, that's in the first full paragraph on the top of page 21.
Any discussion from council? Council or Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I did have a question, or perhaps you could discuss the 2018 building codes do not require licenses of painters or handymen. Is that correct?
Correct. That's in our contractor ordinance that we've already adopted back in May.
And that was part. And would you explain the reasoning for that?
For the painters?
Why we do not require licenses of them?
They're not doing anything structural or tearing things apart, or, you know, and they're not part of the building code as far as a process goes. Most of the processes in the building code lead to like stucco and lath, drywall, structural foundations, framing, roofing. So painters aren't really classified in the building codes as, or wallpapers or that type of construction.
And so essentially it's one, 50,000 foot view is that those two trades are not involved in life critical so much as the constructors are.
Correct.
Thank you.
Ron Cook, since you have been on this Zoom call for a really long time, and there were some questions from the fire district, I would like to invite you to address council if you wish.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So our only concern, there was section 103 that was deleted. It wasn't deleted when we adopted it as a fire district. It basically establishes the Fire Prevention Bureau, I guess you could call it. I don't have my code in front of me. And in your ordinance, you're deleting section 103. The lawyers talked about it back and forth, and we determined that it's appropriate, since you guys do not do the fire side of things, that it was appropriate for you guys to delete section 103 where we did not. So that was the only question that came up. I talked to Chief Delvecchio prior to this meeting, and he is satisfied with everything the way it is.
All right. Thank you, Ron Cook. We appreciate you taking note and making sure we're covering all of our bases appropriately.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comment from council? Brandon, did you want to do?
Sure. Madam Mayor and Council, I move to approve ordinance number 20, series of 2020, correcting the typo on page 21 from 31 to 32.
Second.
On second reading.
Second.
So there's been a motion and second. Councilmember Meisner, did you have another comment?
And again, I assume we still haven't had any concerns from contractors.
No, we sure have not.
All right, and I appreciate the process of getting those people involved and moving forward. I mean, hopefully this is a step in the direction of us continuing to build a safe building without being a headache.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my goal, is to build a safe building and still be business friendly. We need to figure out how to do that.
Thank you.
Thank you for your hard work.
And
did notice that you sent out another email asking, to our contractors and just making sure that we really covered our bases to get the communication out.
Thank you.
Ryan Stevens?
That is exactly what I was going to say, is that we did send out additional emails to both this meeting and the previous meeting to solicit any last minute feedback from the contractors.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, many thanks. Some really hard work has been done. There's been a motion and a second. Congratulations have been given. I'd like to take the roll call, please.
Councilmember Dennehy?
Aye.
Councilmember Jaquez?
Aye.
Councilmember Meisner?
Aye.
Councilmember B. Smith?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick?
Aye.
Thank you, Council. The motion is passed. Congratulations, Kathy. Item number D, 9D, introduction and first reading by title only of ordinance 22, series of 2020, entitled an ordinance of the city of Canyon City, Colorado, approving.
Madam Mayor.
Oh, did I skip?
I believe you skipped C, ordinance 21.
Thank you. Okay, let me get my papers right. Oh, I marked it. I shouldn't have marked it. Okay, thank you. Introduction and first reading by title only of ordinance 21, series of 2020, entitled an ordinance of the city of Canyon City, Colorado, and appropriating sums of money to various funds and spending agencies in the amounts and for the purpose as set forth below for the city of Canyon City, Colorado for the 2021 budget year. So now we do have an opportunity to appropriate some funds.
Yes, Mayor and Council, this is the appropriation ordinance. So this puts the money behind the budget that was just approved in the resolution. This is first reading. We are anticipating making some changes for second reading to account for some loss of revenue from the Black Hills franchise. So a revised ordinance will come forward to you at the next meeting in December.
So I do want to stress what Administrator Ryan Stevens has said. The Black Hills franchise agreement failed in the election in November. The franchise agreement, part of that was a collection of money to compensate the city of our easements. Because that was voted and rejected by the city, we now have to make some pretty significant budget cuts. We won't be making those budget cuts on the first reading, but we will see them upon the second reading. We'll now take comments from City Council, and we'll start with Councilmember Meisner. Or questions.
Oh, I was going to make a motion.
Or a motion, it's even better.
Madam Mayor and Council, I move that we approve ordinance 21, series of 2020 on first reading.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Just more appreciation to Tammy Nordyke and our directors. I'll call for a vote, please.
Councilmember Dennehy?
Aye.
Councilmember Jaquez?
Aye.
Councilmember Meisner?
Aye.
Councilmember B. Smith?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick?
Aye.
Thank you, City Council, for passing. Now that we have passed item C, we can move on to item number D, and that's the introduction and first reading by title only of ordinance 22, series of 2020, entitled an ordinance of the city of Canyon City, Colorado, approving an addendum to master lease purchase agreement with U.S. Bank Corp, Government Leasing and Financing Incorporated for new CAC truck, and reapproving the master lease purchase agreement as modified by an addendum for the lease purchase of a street sweeper. Ryan Stevens, would you like to give a report?
Yeah, and I believe that's a small typo. That should be a vac truck, I believe. And I'm going to turn it over to Tammy to give her report on this new lease program or the amendment.
Before City Council, you have the Ordinance number 22, series of 2020. This is amending our current lease with US Bank Corp to include the vac truck. We are also reapproving the original master lease purchase just to ensure that we did get it before council. This, the lease payments are included in the 2021 budget, and the purchase of the vehicle was approved at the September 21st council meeting, and we are anticipating delivery of the vehicle in January. And this is that we are in compliance with all applicable state law by having our first reading tonight, second reading in December, and then an effective date 30 days after.
Thank you, Tammy. Jim Eisner, did you have a question? Or
I got a couple of questions, but I thought we decided last year's budget that we were going to appropriate the money to buy a vac truck. Did we not do that? I'm looking for some advice here. So how much in fact did we allocate money in the 2020 budget to purchase a vac truck?
No, we did not.
I thought we were going to purchase it.
So,
No, we did.
yeah, so we approved the rate increase in, I believe it was either January or February for stormwater. So we couldn't appropriate any funds because we didn't have the revenue to cover it. This lease agreement is for the purchase of that vac truck that we discussed and the rate increase earlier this year.
Yeah, we did approve it, and I thought we were gonna purchase it in the fall so that we'd be ready in the winter to start cleaning out our stormwater drains.
Okay, so what is there an interest rate on this lease? Because I couldn't find one.
Let me see if I can pull up the documents from the from US Bank.
And then it appears while we're doing that there's at the end of the lease on both of these agreements, we acquire the equipment by paying $1. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Looks like the interest rate is 1.64 on that last page. Or on exhibit 1.
I find that it's a subnote, not part of the lease, or that it's not mentioned in item 11. That was purchased.
So can you remind me, Tammy, when do we anticipate the truck being in operation?
The truck can go into operation
delivery.
Go ahead, Tammy.
Sorry. We are anticipating taking delivery of the vac truck in early January. And we have to have the financing in place before we can take delivery of the vehicle.
So what's the cost of this vac truck? And not the total lease cost, but what are we buying it from the factory for?
Says the principal is $500,512.
Well, I know that's what the principal
says. At the September 21st council meeting, the purchase of the vehicle was approved for $516,000. Over $516,000.
So how are we making up the difference?
I mean, if the lease principal is 500,000.
Out of the 20.
Tammy, you're cutting out.
In 2020 budget, we do have funding to pay for some of the equipment that was included in the $516,000 purchase that council had approved in September. That's where the difference is coming from.
Is that an $8,000 difference since the total is $522,300 with interest? That includes interest, I mean.
No, that 22,000 is.
20.
No.
Yeah.
Well, from our.
The difference is about 16,000, which we paid for some additional equipment, as Tammy said, that came with the truck. So that's some of the cleaning heads and some of those additional items that come in order to do the work.
Okay.
Did we actually approve the purchase of the truck? I mean, it seems like we're buying it twice here by technicality.
Well, now we're approving the loan or the lease agreement.
Yeah, you approved the purchase of the vehicle or of the equipment, but we did not have the lease agreement in place at that time. When you approved it, I did mention that the lease agreement would be coming to you at a later date.
Okay.
So this is something we've been looking forward to for a really long time to help take care of a lot of our stormwater problems and future preventative maintenance. I would like to entertain a motion. Councilmember Smith.
Madam Mayor and Council, I move to approve ordinance number 22, series of 2020 on first reading.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any discussion? A roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Dennehy?
Aye.
Councilmember Jaquez?
Aye.
Councilmember Meisner?
Yay.
Councilmember B. Smith?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick?
Aye.
And the motion has passed. Thank you, City Council.
Hope you're happy with your back truck.
It's going to be really big.
I hope we're happy with it.
It would be interesting to see that the new employees are supposed to map out a schedule for the drains that'll be cleaned out. It's supposed to take a whole year to get it done. I would be interested when that is formulated to see that and get a report on how it's going, how things are being effectively used.
Absolutely, we can put something on for maybe first or second quarter.
Thank you, Ryan. We now have item number 9E, introduction and first reading by title only of ordinance 23 series 2020 entitled An Ordinance of the City of Canyon City, Colorado, amending certain water rate schedules set forth in the city's water code relative to water service provided by the City of Canyon City Water Department, a water activity enterprise. Ryan Stevens.
Mayor and members of council, this again during the budget hearing we brought up the topic of water rates, and at that time it was recommended by council that we move with a cost of living increase. The ordinance before you is a 3% increase to the water rates.
Any questions or discussion from council? I do know that in our last conversation, we did say that we need to keep up with even just the basic inflation rates so that we aren't falling behind significantly and taking care of some of our basic services. Councilmember Meisner.
Just to reiterate what the mayor said, that they say when everybody's unhappy, you maybe have a good solution. So I know Bob's not happy with this rate increase. I'm assuming most citizens aren't happy with this rate increase, but we have to keep up with the cost of living. Ideally, this needs to be in that 3 to 9% range, but it's just not appropriate to do that at this point in time. But I also believe it's not appropriate at this time to not do anything, because we need to keep up. Because if we don't do anything, then the next increase will have to include whatever's projected
plus what we didn't do this year. And we've been doing that for too long. So I don't like it, but it is what it is.
I'd like to entertain a motion.
You got it?
Council Member
Dennehy
Dennehy.
wants to do it.
Madam Mayor, I make a motion to pass ordinance number 23, series of 2020 on first reading.
Second.
There has been a motion and a second. Any discussion? Call a vote, please.
Councilmember Dennehy?
Aye.
Councilmember Jaquez?
Aye.
Councilmember Meisner?
Aye.
Councilmember B. Smith?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick?
Aye.
Thank you, Council. The motion is passed. Item number 9F, introduction and first reading by title only of ordinance 24, series of 2020, entitled An Ordinance of the City of Canyon City, Colorado, increasing the base rate used to calculate stormwater management fees chargeable by the city's stormwater utility enterprise. We'll turn this back to you again, Ryan. Ryan, I believe you're on mute.
Thank you. So again, at the budget hearing, we discussed the topic of stormwater rates to try to get an idea of where council wanted to see a stormwater rates go. Again, the rate study was recommending a 9% increase. During that meeting, we kind of got the impression, somewhere between 3 and 6%. The ordinance before you has a 5.53% increase in there, and that is based off of the operation of the stormwater facility and program. Tammy, is there anything you want to add to the analysis that you did, how you came up with that rate?
No, Adam and I actually sat down and calculated what the rate should be based on what municipal code 13.10.065 states that how it needs to be calculated. And so that is where that rate was determined.
So I was a little interested in getting a more input on, it says that the rate increase needed was pursuant to the Canyon City Municipal Code of 53532.
That's what she said.
Yeah, what kind of code is that?
Adam can answer that. I know he can.
Yeah, so part of when the stormwater utility was formed, part of the requirements of the code is for the base rate calculation, it requires us to take the total revenue that's required for the stormwater operations, divided by the total impervious surface, and then dividing that by 12. That gives us the base rate for the month. So that's without any additional increase that the city council may want for what other type of capital improvement project or other program funding that may be required for the next year. So at a minimum, for that adoption once annually of the budget, it requires us to provide it that way. So going that route, it got us the 5.532. Which my understanding was close or in between the 3 and 6 that you guys were looking at. So at a minimum, we have to do the 5.5. The rate study was asking for a 9, and I think that had a lot to do with the capital improvement planning. So that's where it comes from.
Adam, so are you saying that the increase to 5.532 costs only?
So the 5.532 includes everything that we have in the budget for next year as far as what we plan on doing with, it includes the new vac truck payment, it includes the new personnel that were added to run the vac truck, it includes all our other annual costs for running the MS4 program, and also the the debt service or the COPs for the stormwater capital improvement projects.
I thought we increased water rates last year to pay for the backtrack.
Yeah, that's an annual increase that we have to take care of as far as into the extension of what they did for the rate study. It's not a one and go. That's the purpose of the rate studies. It says, you know what, if you want to do this for the next 30 years, here's what you're going to have to do with your rates for the next 30 years. The problem is we have this discussion every year about how much we want to raise the rates instead of sticking to the plan and the program to pay for the things that we included in the rate study. That's where the 9% difference comes from. But regardless, the 5.3 is or the 5.532 is what's required to pay for the budget that you have in front of you tonight.
Councilmember Meisner.
So the 5.3 is essentially an annual reset to make for sure that our revenue is being offset by whatever budget expense dollars.
Exactly, that's correct. So that's not a 5% increase. That's a 5% or I'm sorry, I'm not saying that right. Tammy, you're going to help me out there. It is a 5.5% increase over the existing rate based on that projected revenue requirement. So if we wanted to change that rate today, if you wanted to lower it, we'd have to cut something out of the budget.
Right. So we have in fact, with a 5.53 increase, we have in fact shown some growth because we've got a back truck, we've got more personnel. This is in fact an increase of expenses, kind of like setting a mill levy, the same concept. We're looking at the whole and dividing it back and figuring out where we need to be.
Right.
Like it or not, I mean, we could do 6, we could do 7, we could do whatever. But where we're at with what we've decided, we got to do 5.53.
So is there a motion on that? Councilmember Meisner.
Madam Mayor and Council, I move that we approve ordinance number 24, series of 2020, first reading.
I second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any further discussion? I'll call for a vote, please.
Councilmember Dennehy?
Aye.
Councilmember Hawkes?
Aye.
Councilmember Meisner?
Aye.
Councilmember B. Smith?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick?
Aye.
All right, thank you, council. Thank you, Adam.
Thanks,
you,
guys.
I did
Thank you.
inadvertently skip Administrator Stevens' administrator report. I did want to offer if you had any questions on that report, or Brian, if there's anything big you want to make sure we point out tonight, that you have that opportunity.
Yeah, I just want to make sure everybody saw, and I believe I've sent something out previously, but a previous administrator report, but the City Council and Planning Commission will have a meeting on December 2nd from House O'Levine to go through the next steps in the comprehensive plan and the code rewrite. So they're going to be going from the diagnostic step to some recommendations and kind of what what those next steps are going to look like heading into next year. And that will be a Zoom meeting.
Thank you, Ryan.
For everybody? For everybody?
We could do it in person, but we're getting a lot of people together for that. And with where the COVID numbers are going, I think it would be wise to probably do that one 100% on Zoom.
I think that's pretty much inevitable.
All right.
Ryan, I did also want to point out that since the Black Hills franchise agreement did fail, I did mention briefly before that council seems interested in forming an advisory council to further explore options, costs, and all of that. Ryan, what are we looking at on our schedule as far as putting that on City Council's agenda to create such a committee?
I will have to double check, but I believe we have it on the general government meeting for February, but I'll need to confirm that.
Right, I was thinking February as well. So I just suggest to those that are interested that we usually pass like a resolution or something, or saying that we have an intention to form this committee, and then we seek applications, and then City Council usually does interviews or makes the decision and approves who will serve on that committee. Just looking to the future. Councilmember Meisner.
Right. And I think the thing that I think that's critical from our standpoint is that council lays out some guidelines and some objectives in terms of what do we want this group to accomplish, so that they're just not starting blindly here in terms of what do we want him to do and how soon do we want it done.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll have that opportunity in February to talk more about that. That will be on a Wednesday meeting to hash that out. If there's no other questions, then I feel usually I don't, but tonight we need this meeting's adjourned. Thank you, City Council. It's been a long one.